This is Eitan Weinstein.
And I'm Naor Menninger, and you're listening to Two Nice Jewish Boys.
This podcast is made in collaboration with the Jewish Journal. Check them out at jewishjournal.com. Also in collaboration with Arutz Sheva, israelnationalnews.com. If you'd like to support the podcast, visit 2njb.com/donate. These are highly turbulent times in Israel. Not only are we facing the corona crisis with a health system that's more or less stuck in the 80s, we are also in the midst of a political earthquake that's shattering the entire Israeli political landscape as we know it. Here's a small recap of what's happened here in just the past few days. The Supreme Court ordered Yuli Edelstein, the head of the Knesset, to hold an election for his successor. He refused and resigned, thus causing a constitutional rift if Israel had a constitution. Ganz, the head of the Blue and White Party, decided to cross his political partner, Yair Lapid, and against all odds joined Bibi for a right-wing-orthodox government. And then if nothing crazy happens, which at this point is just like saying if nothing normal happens, it looks like Bennet, Israel's defense minister, will be left out of the upcoming coalition. And that's just the appetizer. To discuss all this sweet, sweet craziness, we decided to talk to Vivian Bercovici. Vivian served as Canada's ambassador to Israel between 2014 and 2016. She's a rehabilitated lawyer. She's currently an independent business consultant and a columnist for several outlets, including the Jerusalem Post, the National Post, the Canadian Daily, and Commentary Magazine.
Yeah, National Post is a Canadian daily.
The National Post, which
Canadian
is
Daily
the Canadian Daily.
Yes.
Okay, Commentary Magazine. And Vivian was also brave enough to risk her life and join us today. So thank you so much for that.
No, okay, pleasure to be here, but...
You didn't risk your life? You don't feel that way?
Don't feel that way. I'm feeling
Well,
pretty...
you will in between 5 and 10 days.
Okay.
2 weeks. Up to 2 weeks.
5 days and 14 days.
Oh, wow. Nobody told me this was like live comedy hour.
Wait, so you don't feel like it's dangerous to leave the house and...
Look, I mean, no. I think if you sort of, follow protocols and behave reasonably, then no, I don't.
Don't make out with strangers.
Well, yeah, don't make out with strangers. Don't go licking sidewalks. Just kind of do.
Don't do the normal stuff that you would do on a normal day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's the end of the world, right? I mean, this is...
I suppose as we know it, yeah, kind of, yeah. I don't know. Look, I'm kind of of two minds. First of all, like so much, even in your intro, forget what you said about me, but like, it's like real doom and gloom, very apocalyptic. And your comment about our healthcare system here being in the 80s, well, I invite you to check out some other healthcare systems because I think it's fantastic here.
Relative. Everything's relative.
Well, I think that Israelis actually don't appreciate what they have.
Okay.
Really. It's an excellent healthcare system. I speak from experience here. I speak from experience in Canada.
Okay.
All right. So all joking aside, yeah. But, this whole kind of, like on the one hand, okay, if we have this big serious health crisis, yeah, let's all do our part. On the other hand, it just seems so over the top. To me, it just does. There are 8 billion people in the world and there have been 20,000 deaths and everyone is tragic, but way more people have died in the last few months from cancer, from car accidents, from all kinds of other things. And the way we've completely shut down the world, it's just like one panic country after another. Mm-hmm. Having said that, I'm following all the rules, guys.
Eitan, it's a secret. I'm going to reveal he's on your side.
Is he?
He's outing me.
Yeah, we argued all day about that.
Okay,
yeah.
And you're like...
I feel...
You're a snowflake?
No, you're the snowflakes.
I'm not... No, we're tough, man.
I
could go out there and get corona.
Yeah.
Well,
listen, we were talking about I normally go lick sidewalks. Now I just can't do it. I'm holding back.
Well, maybe then it's one thing Corona did good, but I don't know. I feel that you can compare it to cancer because it's just getting started. It just begun. We're only seeing the beginning, and it already slayed.
Oh my God!
Tens of thousands of people.
Actually, it's not tens of thousands. I think it's 20,000 worldwide.
I think 30.
Okay. So
Yeah.
we're
But
we're getting up there.
Every
Look,
day, thousands of people die from it. And now the beautiful thing is that if the extreme measures that countries take will affect the progression of the disease, then it won't kill as many people. And then skeptics like the two of you will be like, you see, it's not that dangerous.
I'm not a skeptic. I'm just like, I deal with facts. I'm a pragmatist. Look, do you have any idea how many people have died in the last 3 months from cholera? Dysentery? Should I go on? Diphtheria? Malarial fever? I have no idea either, but I guarantee you it's way more than 30,000. This is a first world, white people world panic. That's what it is.
Because people die from these diseases in the failed countries. In the Western countries, in the successful countries,
China, yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I don't know about China.
I don't either, but that's where it started. And anyhow, yeah.
But in Western countries like Canada, like Israel, we don't have these diseases anymore. And even the flu, which Eitan keeps bringing
we do have
up.
the flu, exactly.
But you also, the flu, A, and B, you have vaccine for the flu.
So,
and you have treatment for the flu.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, the flu vaccines, I'm actually not a big flu vaccine advocate. And believe me, I've had plenty of flu. I grew up in Canada. I lived there most of my life. I know the flu. But, it's luck. They pick a strain. Some years they don't get the right strain in the vaccine, right? And so lots and lots of people get really bad flus and some people die. I had a terrible flu last year. And it turned into bronchitis. And I wasn't on a respirator, but I had to be put on one of those masks, where you breathe in something that clears your lungs up a bit so you can carry on. And it was serious and it was scary. What we know, there's a lot we don't know about corona, but what we do know is that it's from, this H1, the corona family of viruses. And just, for everybody out, no, I am not an epidemiologist or virologist. No, I do not pretend to be one. None of us are. So just want that out there.
The Twitter hashtag. I'm not an epidemiologist,
exactly.
but...
Just read obsessively, right? And think I, by now, actually should have an honorary PhD in epidemiology. But we'll let that go. The coronavirus, it's hardest on the elderly, right? We know that. We know that much.
The elderly, the smokers.
Okay. People who don't follow protocols, like the ultra-Orthodox, right? Just saying. But in terms of, death or serious illness rate, it doesn't seem to be so out of whack with other viral illnesses that the West copes with.
But Italy...
So Italy is really interesting. First of all, they have free porn there. Like Pornhub gave, after the first week or something of quarantine, Pornhub said, okay, free porn for everybody.
What?
Seriously, yeah. And there was another thing where some winery in, Lombardy where it was all closed.
Are you jealous in the Canadian ambassador to Italy?
No, not at all, actually.
It's like now that we can't travel to Italy.
I'm anti-porn. Guys. All right. Okay. Yeah, that's all right. I was just putting it out there as a kind of, cute, interesting fact. Okay. But, and there was a winery, too, in the north of Italy, Lombardy, some small town, and they had some malfunction. And so there was a tap. Did you read about that?
Yeah.
Like wine was just coming out of their taps for a few hours. Yeah. Red wine was pouring out of their taps.
But that's not because of Corona. It's just... an accident.
I don't know. It just happened, but it's kind of cool that it happened during Corona.
Maybe someone sneezed on the
the
button.
Italy's like, I'm Canadian and Israeli, and it's just starting to hit Canada, okay? Canada was really, frankly, asleep. And they're just starting to get hit with it, and they're reacting, and it's, in my view, a panicked reaction. And I see this every day in the media in Canada. They pull out all these numbers, and it's like, oh, yeah, look at us. We're great. We hardly have it. Like, our numbers are really low. Everyone's pulling out these raw numbers apropos Italy. And they're saying, oh, wow, this country sucks, this country's great. You can't look at the raw numbers. You have to understand, when the virus first entered the system, the country. You have to understand the testing protocols. You have to understand the capacity of the healthcare system. And each country's going to be its own little puzzle, right? And its own calibration. And so Italy clearly is out there. They reacted much later than most European countries. They, I'm told, I haven't verified this, have a large number of Chinese workers in the country, like 300,000. That's a lot.
They have lots of elderly.
They have a higher, I'm just starting
And
with the list.
smokers.
All
and
right.
elderly who smoke.
There you go. And in the north, where it started, very bad air pollution, which is also an irritant, like an aggravating factor. So I don't know why Italy. I wish it wasn't Italy. I love Italy. I love everything about Italy.
Don't we all?
Right?
But Spain and the UK.
Well, the UK, I think, is a whole other kettle of fish. The
They're
UK,
going in the direction of Italy.
yeah, but they didn't react. It's the same thing. You know, they didn't react. So, and their initial, the herd immunity theory. So they were onto this whole herd immunity thing, and then Boris got the virus, and things changed.
Not before he said that he went to a hospital and shook all the coronavirus patients.
I want to know about his hair.
Yeah.
Like that hair is blow dried and moosed every morning. Get that look, seriously.
You think so?
I know it.
You think it's organized chaos?
Totally, and dyed.
Well, not every country can have a model for a leader.
Yeah,
Vivian.
I'll just let that go.
Okay.
Okay. I'm more of a substance kind of girl, you know?
okay.
Yeah.
So,
So,
what,
I
you
mean,
mentioned the Orthodox. So that's a big
The
deal here.
ultra-Orthodox.
The ultra-Orthodox. That's a big deal. Tonight they held a funeral in Bnei Brak.
Wasn't it last night?
Was
Another
it?
one?
Was it?
It was last night, yeah.
They
Yeah.
held it last night.
Yeah, yeah.
And a few hundred people attended, although it was highly illegal for a rabbi who
Legal
passed.
schmiegel. Yeah.
And they say, like, one of the biggest cities that got the corona is Bnei Brak, the ultra-Orthodox city. And we have a big problem with that population. They don't abide to the law.
Well, not our law.
So what do we do?
So the thing last night was actually very interesting. There was a rabbi who was quoted in the press saying, yeah, well, if not for Corona, like, see, we're being good. If not for Corona, there would have been thousands in the street. So, okay. And the police were there, of course, just standing around, leaning on their cars and watching.
Yeah, couldn't do
Spectacle.
anything.
Did not. Chose not. I live right by the park, Hayar Khan. For those of you who don't know Tel Aviv very well, it's like, the Central Park of Tel Aviv, and it's beautiful, and it's why we barely manage to keep our sanity living in this city. That place is crawling with cops, and it's empty.
There was a viral video of
I saw that.
The police car chasing a guy inside the park.
On a bike.
And he just fled.
Like, one guy alone on a bike, yet they sit there in Bnei Brak and, like, we're not doing anything.
So why do you think?
Well, it's not what I think. It's so obvious. It's what I know. I mean, they clearly have direction to, and they said so today. There was a police spokesperson who said today to be present, to let them know they're watching, kind of like they were doing with us, a month ago, but not to do anything.
It's worth mentioning that the Minister of Health is ultra-Orthodox, and that's his community.
I've been, for some of the stuff I'm going to be writing about in the next few days, doing a lot of interviews and research on that issue that we're just talking about right now. And the minister
For a column?
For a column, I write, I blog a lot in Commentary Magazine, which is a U.S. publication. I have a column in the National Post in Canada. I write here. And I think I'm going to start my own blog this week. I'm going to launch a site. I have the domain Tel Avivian.
Nice.
Wow. Right?
You shouldn't launch a site. You should sell it.
Yeah.
I'm not selling it. Just kidding. Not .com. .com was gone. I got .org.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
Yes.
Right? I'm an organization. And Rabbi Litzman. Minister Litzman, for those of you who aren't Israeli.
He's also a rabbi.
He's also, well, yeah, of course. He does not have his high school graduation diploma either.
He's got a diploma from God.
Yeah. He's our Minister of Health. And he's been very, very noticeably absent throughout this whole crisis. But there are a few little gems that I think it's worth sort of, commenting on. One was an interview I was sent with him on a religious radio station last week. And the interviewer was saying, "Oi, what are we going to do? Pesach is coming. How are we going to celebrate Pesach with this, situation?" And Minister Litzman said something to the effect of, "Oh, we don't have to worry about Pesach because the Messiah, Mashiach, is going to come before Pesach, B'ezrat Hashem. And I've learned since that he's been saying that a lot, which, if he believes that, that's great. But it just doesn't feel appropriate to me for a minister of health to be saying that. And somebody I was speaking to today who makes his vocation, he's an academic, and he basically studies the Haredim here, ultra-Orthodox. And he said, there's a lot Litzman could have done. He could have spoken to the mayors and prominent rabbis in all these Haredi neighborhoods and towns and cities, and there are a lot of them, and said, I need you to say X. I need you to put out a communication saying X to your people, and they'll follow. And he didn't do it at all.
Throughout all the discussions with Bibi, according to what the press said, he always pushed not to close the mikvahs, not to close the Beit Knesset, the synagogues. He always, and even now, it's still open. Mikvahs are still open, and it's still allowed to pray 10 people max outside of the synagogue. And they say, you know what? They say the disease is dangerous, but if we are going to be saved, it's only because of prayers.
Right.
So we got to keep praying.
Yeah, but sorry, I have to. I have to, because just today, apparently, what's his name? The rabbi in Bnei Brak, Kanievsky? Kanievsky. Yeah, the Lithuanian, the rabbi of Lithuanian descent who's 93 years old, who apparently, when asked a few weeks ago by his grandson, should we stop studying Torah? They're saying close the schools. And then he said, absolutely not. It's greater risk to life if we don't pray and study. Right? So apparently today he put out another statement. I haven't had a chance yet to verify it. But he put out a statement saying, don't even go on your balconies anymore. Stay home.
They managed to flip him.
So my question to him is, what happened? Either is Messiah coming, or is are we not being protected by God, or what?
Well, he's probably
kind of late to get religion, isn't it?
Yeah. No, he's probably, he's 93. They tell him what, they whisper in his ear, and or they write for him. And so it's politics.
But I mean, this is the question, right? I mean, it's a question of individual liberties. Like, at what point do you draw the line between, okay, this is a public health disaster, we have to lock everybody in their houses because, Noor, I feel like, sees things, this is the end of the world if we don't all stay put. Or, you might not agree with the way that they see the world, and you might not agree that prayer is going to be the answer, but this is how these people live. They, congregate in times even like this, and they want to go out and pray, and they want to go out and be at a funeral, so that's their individual liberty.
Until they get sick and they don't pay their taxes and they want to come into my healthcare system.
Exactly.
Sorry.
If they have their own healthcare system, they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Which is why I would say that there shouldn't be a social healthcare system, but
that's another day.
That's another day.
I'm close to 60 and I've had bronchitis. I'm going to get triaged after them. Okay, if a 23-year-old Haredi kid, let's do tachlis here. Bottom line. Yeah. If a 23-year-old Haredi kid who has violated every single public health order gets taken to a hospital, and I'm there, and I'm a good girl, and I pay my taxes, but I'm close to 59, and I've had bronchitis. If we have an Italy kind of situation, what do you think is going to happen?
No, absolutely.
I'm going to be left to die.
But I'm saying, so I'm kind of confused because where, you on one hand you feel like it's too far, but on the other hand you feel like need to be.
But I'm not a millennial. I'm not so extreme, right? I'm not that ideological. I'm probably between the two of you.
Okay.
So here's where I'm at.
All right.
I can accept that it's a problem. Okay. And it seems to be a more virulent flu or virus than what we have seen and experienced before, for a number of reasons. And one of them, and I'm going to just list them because they're important. One is that the virus lodges very deep into the areoli sacs in the lungs, deeper than any of the other viruses. It's kind of like a vicious cancer. There is a longer asymptomatic period. The number of people that each person contaminates while they're infected is much higher than with other flus, and on and on and on. Unclear if it's going to survive the summer weather or not. Usually these viruses kind of die off in the heat. unclear that that's going to happen here. We see it raging in places that are hot, like Australia and Thailand already. So that seems to disprove that theory. So we may be dealing with a whole new kind of pandemic, ferocity of virus. Okay? So I'm with you on that. But then, because I just want to please everybody, I'm a Jewish mother. But then I stand back and I say, I think that where we were a few weeks ago is probably the right place to be, where people were still going to work. If you work in a really, crowded workplace, then you can rotate, have some workers work from home or in an off-site location so that you don't have too much crowding. Work on the social distancing, work on the hygiene, work on all of those things. But seriously, I think physical fitness is really important. I swim and I play tennis. I can't think of a sport where there's more distance between two players than tennis. The tennis courts are shut down. The pool's shut down. A swimming pool is the safest place to be because of the chlorine. So they get to go. I'm sorry, way of life, I'm not that much of a libertarian. We all have to give things up and compromise if we want to live in a broader society. So for them, the trade-off is, you want the benefits, i.e. healthcare. You can't indulge and engage in practices that are going to result in a way higher transmission rate in your community than in others. But I think that the balance and the compromise was a few weeks ago, where my daughter was still allowed to go to university, where kids were in school.
You just want your daughter out of the home. That's the whole.
That's it.
That's the.
But we've gone crazy. The economies are shut down. It's nuts. Mm-hmm. It's nuts.
People are losing their jobs.
People are, and you know what? We're all going to suffer. This really kind of nice life we've all sort of enjoyed. Everyone, it's gone. Mm-hmm. It's gone. And you guys are young. You're going to feel it more than me.
But there's one person who's thanking God for this.
Who?
For this virus.
Who?
Bibi. No?
You didn't tell me it was like Eretz Nehederet here today.
Well,
at least one person finds this funny.
Well, I think
you.
I'm just being polite.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I've always thought, he's a very serious young man, or
I am
very serious man.
Very serious. Yeah, we talk serious issues. Look, I mean, Bibi would have made it work one way or the other. He didn't need Corona.
I think for now it looks like Bibi is losing. He would have been better off with fourth elections.
Psh, no.
I think.
No, because the public, you can't. First of all, we couldn't even hold them. How would you do it?
In 4 months, everything is.
The public would have been furious. This is great. Now he's in for another 18 months, and there's not a chance that he'll bring the government down. He'll make sure there's a vote. Something brings it down in 18 months because Bennet sure isn't going to sit in that seat, right? But Bibi would have made it. I have confidence in Bibi. He is absolutely brilliant at this. So,
do you actually think that this point in time in 18 months is going to roll around?
No, that's what I just said. Not a chance.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
No, of course not.
You got to work with Bibi as an ambassador?
Work with would probably be overstating it. I mean, I was in meetings when we had visiting, VIP, like ministers and the prime minister when I was in office with Stephen Harper, and they were...
they got along.
Very well. Yeah. So, with visits or other reasons, but we didn't, hang out and drink beer.
Right.
Yeah.
Yet. But okay, and let's take a step back because the things happened so quickly. It all happened in 10 minutes or 13 minutes on
right?
Thursday. It was crazy. So it started a day or two before,
right?
When you had basically the situation was you had the left, central left part of the Knesset, which was led by Ganz, and you had the right part, which was led by Bibi, right? And the left were going to change the head of the Knesset. So the head of the Knesset, what?
Speaker. It's called
speaker.
Speaker. It's important because, head of a political party, but Speaker of the Knesset. It's a specific and very important position.
He has power to do things in the
yes,
parliament.
He does.
He's in charge of the parliamentary agenda.
Right.
Well, it's usually the Speaker of Parliament, because we have a parliamentary democracy in Canada too, the UK. The Speaker of Parliament invariably comes from the majority. Okay, whether it's here, it's kind of the majority coalition, or there, it's majority party. But they have a very, very special and important responsibility, which is to ensure that the functioning procedurally of Parliament is fair and even. They're not allowed to favor their party. And I think that kind of starts to get to the heart of part of the problem.
So the head of the Knesset was Yuli Edelstein.
Speaker, yeah.
The speaker,
By the end of this hour, you will be saying speaker.
Yeah,
yes.
okay. And Yuli Edelstein from Likud, from Bibi's party. And he's been serving for like 6 years or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And the law says they changed the law about the speaker and the speaker, how speaker is being elected. They changed it 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And they basically said the Knesset can vote for a new speaker at a time period between the elections and the formation of the upcoming government. And so Yuli said, you know what, I'm not going to let the Knesset to replace me because he needs to sign. He needs to sign in order for the vote to happen. So he said, I'm not going to let the vote happen because I can prevent that. Because they wanted to replace him.
Okay.
Ganz, right?
You're skipping part of the story that doesn't kind of...
Which is, help me out.
I'll totally help you out. So everything you said is correct. But first of all, we're into this extraordinarily insane, chaotic period where we're, looking towards, at the time that Yuli's taking this position, we're looking towards election number 4. Okay? That's one thing. Why was he digging his heels in that there will be no vote for the Knesset? There are 2 reasons. One is that the opposition parties, and there happen to be 61 of those, i.e. more than the right-wing bloc, that they were saying we have to form committees, various Knesset committees, to oversee Knesset business in this period where we don't have an official government, right? Where the coalition has not been sworn in. And those committees are powerful and they're important, right? And what was the committee that was going to be deciding?
It was the Corona Committee.
That's right. It was the Corona Committee, but all of them.
They wanted to oversee how the government functions.
Yeah, well, they did.
In this crisis.
Listen, we have a very similar thing going on in Canada
But
now.
they formed the committees.
But there were...
They formed them.
But there was one particular committee, and I'll have to Google it because we have to know it. It's a critical... Anyhow, Yuli...
The reason they wanted to replace Yuli was because they needed the speaker to be on their side to bring up laws that would... they wanted to legislate a law that would say that a prime minister cannot be accused in a legal case.
Right.
Because they want to use that to pressure Bibi to succumb to their terms.
Okay.
That was the main reason they needed the speaker on their side.
Okay.
And they want to put someone from Lapid's party as the speaker.
Right.
And Yuli, from all the reasons you mentioned and the reasons I mentioned, he did a political maneuver to postpone it because he said, I'll let you replace me when you're forming a government. And he knew that they cannot form a government.
Right.
They didn't have...
It's not his place to make that decision. It's not. And let me tell you why.
Wait, but they went to Bagatz, to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, you gotta, they said to Yuli Edelstein, the speaker, you have to let them vote to replace you, essentially. Mm-hmm. And then he resigned. He refused to do as the Supreme Court.
Outrageous. So okay, so let me just think. Okay, well, so here's my take. Yuli's he's playing games in my view, and he's pushing. And by the way, I tweeted him directly and asked him to explain to me, and he didn't reply. So there. I'm like, I asked very politely, very openly, no answer. We all know that the Likud wants to keep Bibi out of court, right? And that's what's motivating most of their political moves these days. And so quite right, Yuli was under a lot of pressure. I'm not sure he totally agreed, but he was under a lot of pressure from his party to prevent that at all costs. And he was stalling and stalling. Then it goes to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court says you have to hold a vote. And he basically gives the Supreme Court the middle finger in a democracy. Now, here's how I look at it. Until Wednesday, I thought Yuli might walk on water. Okay? And I think that what I'm about to say, many Israelis would agree. Right, left, center, everyone. Brilliant, dignified, erudite.
He wanted to be the president.
Yeah, but he also is all of those things. I think he was superb in the speaker's role. And prisoner of conscience in the Soviet Union. You know, I was once in his office when I was ambassador. And I said to him, I made this comment, I said, you know, the best reality show in Israel, and of course we love reality shows here, I hate them. I said, the best reality show in Israel is the Knesset channel. And he looks at me like in horror. He's like, what do you mean? I said, I love it. I said, the camera, it's so great to see like who's schmoozing with who. And, you know, you really get a vibe of what's really going down there. And I don't care whoever's up at the dais and speaking to the room. I don't care what they're saying. I want to see the kind of, the gossip. And he said, I hate that. He said, I wish that we had it the way you have in the Canadian Parliament. What's that? He says, you have a rule in your Parliament, which I didn't know, that the camera can only be fixed on whoever is speaking at the time. So I said, and that's why it's so boring and no one watches it. Right? He said, yes, but it preserves the dignity and the decorum and the importance of the place. Fair point. He just gave the middle finger to the Supreme Court of Israel. In a democracy, if you don't like a court judgment, suck it up, Buttercup. That's just not how we roll. So my first comment is, I believe on substantive grounds he was wrong.
Can the court invent laws?
Okay, if I said that was like a stupid question, would you be angry?
No, you could say
it's a
it.
stupid question.
Why?
Because courts don't invent laws. What they do...
have to... Their rulings... Don't their rulings have to be based on the law?
Okay, so, yeah. And I'll tell you what I've learned. And I've been working on this now for 3-4 days, which, is an eternity. I should probably have a doctorate in this too. No, seriously, trying to kind of anchor, because everyone has an opinion here. And actually our conversation a few days ago kind of got me rolling, So I'm like, okay, I got to anchor this. That's what lawyers do, is we anchor every power, every exercise of every power, every authority has to be conferred by statute. All right?
Okay.
So, number one, and then we'll get to the courts inventing laws, okay? Where does Yuli's power come from? Where does Yuli...
Takanon Knesset.
No, the people.
No. Where does Yuli's power come from?
His power?
Yeah.
From the Knesset.
From the rules of the Knesset.
Yes.
And the Knesset, where do those come from?
Wait, first and foremost from the people.
Yeah, he's a member of Knesset before he's the speaker. So
okay, but the rules for the Speaker of the House as to how to go about making rules and hold votes and
from the people.
No, those are from the people. He's elected, but then once he's in the position, the Knesset makes rules. There are written rules about.
Which is but it's a derivative of the people, meaning the representatives are elected and then they.
Well,
pass
the
laws.
representatives are elected, then they go to the Knesset, and then they sit in the Knesset, and it's like, okay, now what do I do? And there are protocols and rules. Everything's from the people, which exactly.
Yes.
But
okay.
They come from somewhere. You can't just like, oh, I'm from the people, so here I am in the Knesset, so I'm just going to write rules. You have to take that power from somewhere. Where's that power? It's from the basic law.
What is the basic law?
Basic law in the Knesset is,
Yesod, you mean?
Yeah. Basic law and
Okay.
Okay. Now, the basic
Israel's
law
version
actually
of constitutional.
It's
not
really
quite
not
a constitution, but it's
as close as it gets.
It's principles. It's a statement of principles more. And yes, I did review them today.
Okay.
And the basic laws on the Knesset are vague, as they should be, and they say, has to be open and transparent and fair and all these things. Okay. Mm-hmm. No specific requirements. So what do you do when you're in a spot and people don't agree and there's no specific requirement or no clearly stated authority or power? What do? You go to Bagatz and you ask them to make things up.
But that was not the case.
Hang on. What happened? No, Bagatz looks in at what Yuli's doing, and when laws in legal systems in democratic countries look to statutes first, okay? And if it's written in a statute, then they interpret the statute and they apply it. But a lot of the time we don't have that. And stuff comes up. And that's where we go to common law, which is the body of case law, and what we call a reasonableness standard. Okay? This is kind of prevalent in most, if not all, democracies. And the reasonableness standard is just that. What's reasonable in the circumstances? Looking at the context. And that...
But reason varies with politics.
Yes and no. I mean, I think that the democracies are the kind of consensus of the common denominator, more or less.
But before we get to the fact that reasonableness is really subjective, or maybe it's
not that
maybe
subjective.
it's less subjective than we would in terms of the law. It's less subjective, but you enumerated it as like the third level. Meaning, first you go to statute, second you go to common law, and third you go to reasonableness.
Reasonableness.
Or is it not like that?
Yeah, no, I think that's probably pretty accurate. I mean, first, if you have a written law, that's great.
But in this case,
there
seems
was
like
a written law that said specifically about the re-election or the election of the speaker. It can happen from any time between the elections
to the swearing
swearing of the government.
The written law. This is like cops investigating cops. Okay. So the Knesset writes the law that they abide by, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's not how democracy works. Democracy has checks and balances. So the written law is the basic law. Their rules are just that. Their rules are an interpretation of the basic law. All right? So maybe in normal kind of regular, whatever that is here, times, their rules have worked reasonably well. They're not laws, they're rules. There's a huge difference. But in extraordinary times like we have now, they're not working because they're using and taking a system that is meant to be neutral and politicizing it. It's not healthy, it's not correct. And
what if the court is politicizing it? Can't the court politicize it?
Of course it can. It shouldn't, but it can. I mean, we're all human. But so then you have ways. I mean, every democracy has this tension. They have this tension between the courts and the executive branch and the legislative branch, all of them. And it's a pendulum, and there's always this kind of tug of war. But I would much rather leave the tug of war to the next round than to have Yuli Edelstein stand up and say, I'm not going to honor, respect, follow your decision, Supreme Court. That's anarchy. That's dictatorship. And we know that the Minister of Justice has made outrageous comments for months about the court. Other ministers, Mickey Zohar's been out there. There's been a whole whack of them trashing the judiciary, trashing the justice system. This is not cool. It's not healthy politically. It's not healthy, from any sort of important measure in a democratic society. And you're thinking, wait, so the Supreme Court totally politicized this, and so Yuli was right to give them the finger?
Just say they have an agenda.
Of course they do. All courts do. Everybody has an agenda. But you do not do what he did. And it shows in the first decision. The second decision was wrong. They were overreaching and political. The first decision, I believe they were right legally.
Can you explain to us what the two different decisions?
Yeah, the first decision they said you have to hold a vote. You have to hold a vote for speaker.
Then he resigned.
Yeah, and then they said
you can't wait 48 hours plus 2
plus
days.
You have to put person X in.
Yeah, you gotta.
But I mean, the truth is, person X was going to be in anyhow, right? It wasn't really interfering. So, yeah. But I just think that.
Can we explain that? You can't wait 48 hours.
Explain it.
Yuli said, "Okay, I'm not gonna." He thought that it won't be counted that he didn't listen to the court if he resigns. But then he said, I'll buy time by resigning because it's 48 hours and then it's Friday and then until the Knesset reconvenes, it's Monday. So I bought a week. So the Supreme Court said, no. You may resign, but you got to have a replacement today. That's the second decision.
Right. And Yuli says, I'm going to resign, but in 48 hours. Huh? What? Why? We know why. Because he knew that they were going to have some sort of deal worked out with with Benny in 48 hours. I mean, I think they're all playing a really unseemly game. I think they're playing with basic division of powers in a democracy.
Let me ask you a question.
And it's just wrong.
What if the Knesset, after all this, were to legislate a basic law that says that definitively the speaker can be elected at the time that he sees fit between the elections and the government being sworn, like the same
power.
thing, but as a basic law. They technically they can do it. You agree? Technically, they can legislate a basic law.
Well, okay,
right? So then you say we'll take it to the court, and the court will say it's an illegal law, right?
Well, first of all, that's not a basic law. Like to start specify, that is so kind of drilling down granular. To start saying the speaker can do this.
But if the Knesset wants it to be, they represent the people. Let's say they want it beyond any. That's the biggest, most important thing for them.
Right.
How can they make it happen if the court says it's...
Well, maybe they shouldn't have this, absolute power over the speaker. That's why basic laws are...
Maybe the court shouldn't have absolute power.
They don't. That's why basic laws are principles and stated as such. Does it make any impact on you that Ruby, President Rivlin, was clearly outraged by this? No?
No.
Okay.
He's a very political person.
Everyone's political.
Yeah, exactly.
But he's also, I think, very reasonable. He's not extreme. He's not inclined to extremes.
I'm wondering if one of the issues that I take with the Israeli courts is that and I'm asking you this as a lawyer because there's no principle of standing. Meaning, when this decision was made, the representatives from the opposite side of the aisle were able to go to the Supreme Court straight away. I mean, there's no need for a certain individual to be hurt and to bring claims against another individual, like in the United States. Is that not a problem in Israel that you can immediately go to the Supreme Court?
A huge problem, in my view. I mean, look, I'm not an expert on process in Israel, legal process, but that's one of the first questions I had, several years ago. It's chaotic. And that was changed in the 80s, I believe, I was reading recently, where they really opened it up so that anybody could go in, which is why you have, everybody and their brother going in, at the last minute to bring this application and that application. I mean, I think it's an inappropriate use of a Supreme Court, but maybe that's something, we'll set up some kind of, commission of inquiry and everybody can come in and have their say and, reform all of it. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of these institutions, the state's been around for 70 years. These institutions, they become brittle. They're frozen in time and they don't really respond to what we need them to do. And it's not just here, this challenge between, the tension between Supreme Courts and the legislative branches.
So, but I wonder why, because I think from the way I see it is that Yuli Edelstein saw himself, and I do speculate about the different interests that might have been in his head, right? Which is all you can do, speculate, because you can't really read someone's mind. But I think, okay, so there might have been keeping Bibi out of court. There might have been just general interest, self-interest for, his position and the party's position in the politics. But then there's that, maybe he saw that he's standing, and as you mentioned, he's very dignified, and he was a conscious prisoner in the... and maybe he saw himself standing at, a crossroads in democracy where he is holding off the Supreme Court from overstepping their...
Oh, he does. I was reading... don't know where, but again in the last few days, and he went on about it was an interview somewhere, and he went on at length about how but I read the translated version. And he was going on about how outrageous the Supreme Court's decision was, or order, and he said, I haven't broken a law. Well, that says a lot to me. And one of the things it says, with all due respect, and I mean that sincerely, no sarcasm to Yuli, is that he doesn't understand how the law works. Because it's not just about breaking a law, like thou shalt not cross the street between 6 and 9 p.m. It's not just about that. It's about interpreting basic law, principles. And many of the laws we have that get to court, the most important ones, are about interpretation of principles and not statutes. That's what Supreme Courts usually do. And it may start out as a statute, but it turns into something much broader. And when Yuli says, I didn't break a law, he's like, what are you telling me that there should be a law that says the Speaker of the House can or cannot? You also didn't follow a law. The rules that the Knesset sets out, are just their rules. They have very little legal standing. They're procedural, they're administrative. And are you saying you followed a law? The law is the basic law, and the basic law is very general. And what the court did in stepping in was they said, you're abusing your position for your gerrymandering, you're playing political partisan games, and you're frustrating democracy. You are not honoring the will of the people. The majority of the people want a new
To replace
speaker. Or they want an election. They at least want to have an opportunity to have their voice be heard. And who are you in these extraordinary times to abuse the tremendous latitude that you have as speaker, to rig it for your party? That's what the court was saying. And I would stand behind them 150%.
Okay.
So?
So what do you...
You could be a good
Bring
lawyer.
it on, bring it on.
You should have been a lawyer,
I know, right?
Vivian. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe next life.
But what happened was, because of this ruling, it was a time bomb. It became a time bomb, the nomination of the speaker. And Lapid pushed his nominee, and Bibi said, if you guys gonna put Lapid's person as the speaker, I'm not gonna negotiate with you anymore. He said it to Ganz. It was an ultimatum that maybe he would honor and maybe he wouldn't. We'll never know. But Ganz he was afraid, I guess. He was scared. And he said, and he decided, instead of appointing Lapid's person, to appoint himself so that he can continue and negotiate with Bibi. And it all happened in like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And Lapid told him, you know what, then we're done.
Yeah.
He stormed out.
I think that, I read Benny's op-ed today in Times of Israel, and I thought it was pretty empty.
What did he say there?
I did what's good for Israel. I know. Very passionate kind of,
Yeah.
Um,
Original.
yeah, I mean, look, we've all watched Benny campaign now for almost a year.
Campaign is a big word for what it was.
We've watched Benny sort of not really make a big impact.
Move and say words.
Yeah,
In
kind
front of a camera.
I'm being, yeah. And, his, I'm going to save Israel and I'm going to negotiate. That wasn't a negotiation. That's not a negotiation, what he just had with Bibi. They're all floating rumors now to see how people react, but it looks like Benny's going to end up in Misad HaChutz, which is a joke.
Yeah, Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Yeah, who's going to be security? Defense?
Gabi. Gabi Ashkenazi.
Okay, good,
He's number 2.
Good,
The
because...
ex-chief of
Well,
IDF.
I was just wondering, so Bennett's out. So if Gabi's in there, that's actually good, because he can watch over things, because he'll be on every important committee. But for Benny to sort of, present this as some kind of victory, that he's in foreign affairs, which is basically a
nullified,
gutted ministry that
Yeah.
Bibi's always going to control anyhow. And kudos to him. He's brilliant at it. I think that Ganz should have had a few bottom lines. One is the speaker, just to make a point. One is defense, and one is health.
They don't want health. They're afraid.
Well,
they're afraid of health.
They may be afraid. I mean, nobody actually wants health. But if you want to step up and you want to use the sanctimonious line that you're here to save Israel, then go into health.
Just goes to show.
And we should not have, in this country, we have all these brilliant medical minds and researchers and healthcare professionals. We should not have a rabbi who doesn't have bagrut and who clearly has contempt for public health based on particularly his conduct in the last, not to mention the imminent indictment, but we'll let that one go for now.
And the alleged protection of...
That's the indictment.
The indictment.
that's...
Yeah, but you can say it.
The indictment is not about that.
Yes, it is.
About Malka Leifer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
He has a few, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he's also sort of,
Protecting a pedophile. Let's just
protecting,
put it out there.
yeah, protecting a pedophile. Allegedly. Also allegedly interfering in the revocation of kashrut certificate for a restaurant that was infested with, rats and mice and all kinds, but it was like friend of a friend's, I mean, there are a number of allegations that all seem to speak to an abuse of power, corruption.
So why do you think Benny did what he did? Like, is it just that he's not an adept politician? Like, what is it?
Did what he did, like
why do you think he gave
as
in?
Lapid said, crawled over?
Yeah.
I love that. Slithered. Is there a word for slithered in
Now's
Hebrew?
the best time of your
Oh
favorite
my
reality
God. Yeah,
channel.
I know, right? Nobody's. He's going to be like, everyone's going to be throwing Benny shade in the Knesset.
What was
right?
hilarious
God.
is all the press and all the left who idolized Benny
Yeah.
Ganz, and especially the journalists who were so supportive.
Yeah.
In a matter of minutes,
Yeah.
they started to bash him worse than Bibi did during the campaigns.
I know.
It was a joy to watch on Twitter.
What do
It
you
was
think they're
just-
going to call this?
Called
Like,
what?
because, there's the Targil HaMasriach, there's Chevron Baron, there's
Yeah.
all these,
Iconic
names. I wonder
names.
what the name for this is going to be.
for the
Because it's definitely going
For
to have
this
a name.
coalition, you mean?
No, for the what
the
the
maneuver.
Oh,
the whole-
I see.
Benny's
What's gonna be the
betrayal of the
Wikipedia
left.
page?
Yeah, you know what? I wish I could come up with it. I don't know. I'd love to, but I can't. Like, I could do it maybe in English, but not in Hebrew.
Yeah.
Damn.
So why do you think he?
Why do I think he did it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I can speculate, just like, any of us can. I think that he's probably not the sharpest political mind. And I think he was just completely outfoxed.
Just the
And I
pressure
think
of the
that-
virus and
Also,
The virus and the pressure
the
within
campaigns
Exactly.
ate him alive.
ate him alive. He had no control over all his factions. It was just like, he was probably like stressed out, tired, and like, this isn't good for Israel. It's not good for Benny, and it's not good for Russia.
it's
So-
weird though because he somehow managed to coalesce this
yeah.
like group
Blurb.
of factions which would maybe lend to the idea that like he does have some kind of political acumen, and then all of a sudden it just fell apart.
Evaporated.
Yeah, I think the political acumen was kind of a lot of smoke and mirrors and hype around him. You had 4 very talented people. Each one, 3 of the 4 could not or chose not to lead the group for their own reasons. I mean, Gabi has some kind of stuff from his past that may have caused problems, although he's like a leader and has charisma. Bogi has no charisma.
And Yair has no
And Yair has
military background.
Yeah, and so here's Benny. It's more important to be an IDF chief, right? Even if you were one that people questioned.
Yeah. If
your
you're white and have blue eyes, it's a big
white,
plus.
blue eyes, 6'2". I mean, come on, Yeah, IDF chief. I mean, somebody I know very, very close to the group. We were talking about this recently, and this person said, could even be someone like inside, and they said, "Look, we all criticize him, but he stepped up." There is something said for that. Having said that, I think that he kind of had a very... He's one of those
Idealistic
people
guy.
who sort of seems to have skated, worked hard, surely, but skated, never really had the shit kicked out of him, right? And politics is brutal,
Yeah.
and especially
Never
here,
say never.
I don't think he appreciated what he was getting himself into. And then once he was in, I think it was like, shit, how do we fix this? How do we end this? How do we stop this? And Bibi's very charming, right? Brilliant. And I'm sure if you're Benny and there's Bibi, that Bibi is a wildly seductive, not sexually, of course, but seductive negotiator.
It's too bad Benny
He-
Gantz
he-
had a head of white hair before. So it would have been great to do that before and after
Yeah.
picture.
Yeah, well,
Well, you can look at the wrinkles, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know that he's only a year older than me?
Really?
And this is when you say you're kidding,
You're kidding.
right?
I would
said it.
never.
I said it.
You said really.
You really, yeah, but you didn't seem really convinced. It was kind of really.
Well, to be optimistic,
Yeah?
we're gonna have a government probably.
For like
Well,
3
so-
weeks.
Although, let's see.
I wouldn't, yeah, you know what? I'm not holding my breath. I'm not
see.
holding
It's
my
good. It's
breath.
not a good time to hold your breath.
Right?
It ain't over till it's over,
Nope.
right? In Israel, you
Yeah.
never know.
Yeah, I would, yeah. I mean, have they signed? Have they not signed? Maybe we'll have a government. It would be a good thing. But,
Finally.
yeah.
I was
Okay.
thinking, I mean, couldn't it be that couldn't it be his couldn't it be that he made himself speaker and now he's going to do a targil masriach, like a dirty trick, and he's going to talk to all the old factions and be like, let's
Who,
pass a
Benny?
law. Yeah, let's pass a law to the original law that they were planning on passing to.
On the opposite, now Bibi can do a trick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bibi
I think,
can now.
yeah. I think
Bibi has 61 now without him.
they've given up all their cards, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
All
think
right.
that if they'd gone in and said, particularly now, we want Litzman out. We want a proper minister of health. It would have shut like that. I'm sorry. Well, we can talk about all the other things after, but this is why I'm crossing over now. I'm Benny now. This is why I'm crossing over.
Year older.
It's the corona crisis, right? And this is just not good. And even if you love Litzman and think he's the most competent in the world, okay? Which I don't, but others may. The medical community in Israel, the healthcare community, has come out and said openly what they were only saying privately. He is absolutely not right to lead this very important ministry at this time, and they have no confidence in him. I mean, you need your medical community on side, particularly now. I really believe if Benny had done that, if he'd said this is a kavadon, this is a red line, he would have had the gratitude and respect of everyone.
Too late.
You didn't call me, you know?
You should have.
Go figure.
It's not too late, Benny, if you listen.
You think he's tuning in?
Maybe.
Yeah,
you want to
well.
dig yourself out of this hole.
Benny, do it. Just do it.
Vivian, thank you so much for coming. What can we plug before we go? Like things that you...
All her great content.
Right. You're
Yeah.
going to have a website soon?
Oh, that.
Yeah.
Like this is my sort of
Yes.
shameless self-promotion
Yes.
opportunity. Yeah, no, I think, well, yeah, I don't, but it's sort of like government, like the government. My plan is, yes, launching. I have the website. I have my guy. I have the domain. I even have content. I'm hoping to launch it in the next couple of days.
Okay.
But, busy times, man.
Yeah.
Televivian.
Televivian.org.
Televivian.org, and it's just going to be me, as my children would say, mouthing off on whatever
That sounds great.
whatever sort of, pushes my buttons that day.
And
Yes.
you're on Twitter.
I am on Twitter.
How can people find you on Twitter?
Well, they can look me up, and that would be at my name, which is like a mouthful, at Vivian Bercovici.
Spell it.
Oh my God, Vivian Vivian Berc. If you put that in, you'll find me.
Okay.
All right.
It's Berkovich with an I at the
Yeah,
end.
it goes
guys.
on. It's a long name. It goes on and on and on.
So
Imagine you're spelling Bercovici.
Oh, is this my Gal Gadot moment
But-
where I get to sing Imagine?
No, I'm telling the listener, imagine you're spelling Bercovici, but if you ever say it, she'll kill you.
No, whatever.
No?
I don't
let's
care.
not get into it.
Yeah,
Let's
I
not.
don't care. Do whatever floats your boat.
Before we go, we are collaborating with the Jewish Journal. They're at jewishjournal.com. Check them out for great content. They have a coronavirus podcast now or something like
Oh,
Everybody
really?
does. Everybody
Yeah.
does. It's the thing.
that.
This is now the Corona podcast.
Yeah.
We've just
Yeah.
changed
All
it.
podcasts are Corona podcasts.
Everything's Corona.
now.
Yeah.
It's all Corona all the time.
So check
Except
them
for the
out.
beer. Yeah,
Oh, God.
I know.
And also,
And also, IsraelNationalNews.com, guys. Check them out. They also have a great Facebook page, Arut Sheva. We have a collaboration with them. And
we accept donations. Please help us out. Go to twinjb.com/donate and throw some money at us because we do it on our free time. And now we are We have recessions in Israel, and we can't buy food.
Yeah, we're very poor. We need money for toilet paper.
So help. SOS.
We're so good at this.
Suck at it, actually.
That's it.
All
Thank
right.
you so much
Thanks.
for coming.
Thank you, Vivian. Thanks
All right.
so
Stay
much.
safe.
Bye, guys.
Bye.